Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you live to episode number 38 of the Primetime Rundown interview series powered by Streamyard, right here on the Eastern Observer and the I-95 Sports Network, Zingo Channel 198, alongside Chicago Blackhawks ringside reporter on NBC Sports Chicago. I'm Joey Jarzynka. We cannot thank you enough for joining us here just a little bit earlier than anticipated. But Nick, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining me here and coming on with a plethora of guests and some of your colleagues as well.
Well, I appreciate it, my friend. It's good to be here, Joey. I looking forward to it when you reached out, and always fun talking sports, always fun talking broadcasting, always fun talking hockey. So honestly, great to be here, and looking forward to it. I appreciate you coming on a little earlier. Obviously, the NHL draft is tomorrow, and it's going to be a crazy few days. So appreciate you accommodating.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And the cool thing about this podcast, for those that are just tuning in for the first time, maybe in the Windy City or in the Chicago area, a lot of this and a lot of our guests, we want to know who they are beyond the media guide. We want to know what is written, what is more than what's written in just the media guide, and more about sports. So, Nick, let's get to it. Let's take a peek and see who you are again outside of inside the glass. So, you were born in Detroit, and you got started actually out in Michigan as well, in Plymouth. WSDP 88.1. You were play-by-play for ice hockey. Give us a little bit of background on how you got started and how you got there.
Yeah, I mean, hockey play-by-play has always been sort of the goal for me, and I think that's the direction that eventually I'll head in the NHL somewhere. I mean, I think for me, growing up as a hockey player in a big hockey market like Detroit, my aspiration, my dream, the goal was to obviously play in the NHL at some point. But that's obviously a very hard thing to accomplish, and injury sort of divided me and put me down a different path when we'd always at a critical time. When you're a kid playing hockey growing up anywhere, even now, Chicago's got so many unbelievable AAA programs.
Yep.
Mission comes to mind, of course. I think they're probably the elite of the elite, not only in the Chicago area, but also in just in the country. So
right.
In Detroit, I played at a high level as well. And it was one of those situations where I got hurt at the wrong time. I got hurt as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old. And it puts you in a jam because you missed that window by just this much. And then all of a sudden, everything sort of changes in terms of what is your direction and how are you going to get there. And the competition is just so high in terms of who's going to make it to that next level. And at that point in my career, it was, okay, are you going to go play juniors? Are you going to go play college? Are you going to have those opportunities? And when injury sidelined me, it was just about trying to find a way to still be involved in the game of hockey. I mean, it's all I had ever known since I was a kid. I mean, I don't even remember learning how to skate. That's how small I was. So I was lucky. My high school, Plymouth-Salem High School, had a radio station, 88.1 FM, WSDP Plymouth. And it was literally as low as you could go on the dial. I think if you went, 10 miles, 20 miles away from the radio tower on top of the high school, you probably lost the signal a little bit. And there were probably even areas in my hometown, my small town of Plymouth, where you probably lost the signal too. But it was just a means to an end for me. It was a way to get going, and it provided me so many opportunities. And I was tenacious, and I think that's something that you have to be in this business. We had an unbelievable stepladder of hockey programs in the Detroit area. At CompuWare Sports Arena, there was the North American Hockey Leagues at the time, CompuWare Ambassadors, which were a dominant team coached by Mike Vellucci. And then the step above them was the Ontario Hockey League's Plymouth Whalers, who at the time Pete DeBoer and Steve Spott were coaching. So I went to Mike Vellucci as a 16-year-old. I was 16. I had to have been 16. As a 16-year-old kid, and I went into Mike's office at CompuWare Sports Arena, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to broadcast your games for you." Now, Mike had known me because I was playing hockey in that area, and he was obviously keeping an eye on things. So it wasn't like a blind hello, but I went to him and he said, "All right." He goes, "You get me a radio station." He goes, "I'll let you do our games." And I said, "All right." And so I went to 88.1 and I said, "Hey, let me do these hockey games." And they were like, "Get them to say okay, and you can do them." And so I had the two with each other, and it ended up working out. It ended up working out beautifully. And from there, I announced for 3 seasons in the North American Hockey League, and then I got promoted to do the games in the Ontario Hockey League on Fox Sports Radio in Detroit for the Plymouth Whalers, and from there was on Fox Sports Detroit, and then out to LA to NBC, and then a couple years in Vegas, and now Chicago. But Mike Vellucci, there are a few people who get a lot of credit for my broadcasting career. Mike Vellucci gave me a shot 25 years ago as a wide-eyed kid, and he's still to this day one of my best friends. I was back in Detroit last week and actually got to watch the Stanley Cup final with him, and we had some laughs. And he's now the assistant coach, just got named as the assistant coach for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yeah. So I had a good time with him. And then the other guy, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little later, is Eddie Olczyk. Eddie's been a friend of mine for 13 years, and he's always been such a cheerleader for me. He's always been such a mentor. He's always been such a friend, and he's family. I mean, his 3 boys and his daughter and his wife are, brother, sister, family to me. And, he gets the primary assist for getting me to Chicago last offseason. So Eddie Olczyk and Mike Vellucci get all the credit for my broadcast career.
Yeah.
Not rough names either to have in your corner either, by the way.
I mean, that's what I was going to say, to have those two, especially a national broadcaster and a former head coach, a former player, such as Edzo, is probably the coolest thing. And again, the biggest thing that a lot of people realize, that some don't realize, is that we're all human beings. We're all the same, and regardless of the name, and we're all humans at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Edzo is one of those guys that there was a handful of people in my life outside of my mom and my dad and my little brother that I say I would literally, if Eddie needed a kidney, if Eddie needed a heart, I would take mine out with a butter knife in front of him and hand him to him, because that's just the kind of guy he is. There's just not you'd be very hard pressed to find a kinder, more generous, more compassionate human being than Edzo. No matter who you are, he does honestly care, and he wants to help. And, I've turned to Edzo for professional advice. I've turned to Edzo for personal advice. And, this past season, getting to be on the broadcast with him was dream come true stuff. I mean, not only is he the amazing personal guy he is, but his knowledge of the game of hockey and his insight and the way he sees it and the way he understands it and the amount of respect that he has in the business across all platforms is it's second to none. So yeah, he's one of those people that's a once in a lifetime person that comes around, and it's I owe him big time. Like I said, he gets the primary assist for getting me to Chicago.
So just before you got to Chicago, though, a few stops prior, though, since 2007, Nick, you've been a part of the NBC group and everything, and you were also a part of host, producer, commentator, reporter for Universal Sports Network, which is under that same umbrella, studio host of Podium 360, and you were doing a lot of the Olympic sports as well for the NBC Sports Group, doing ice hockey, water polo, speed skating, skiing, snowboarding, skiing, figure skating, courtesy of your LinkedIn page. But all joking aside, though, to have all of that experience under your belt, and then on top of it, someone in the business to kind of guide you and have those connections there, eventually landed you a job in Vegas. We'll get to that in a second, but just to get your feet wet at NBC or in the Comcast, corporation. Yeah. How good did that feel for you to be able to do that? And again, to get your feet wet with all of these different sports. God forbid hockey was not the road for you.
Yeah, Joey, there's no A to B in broadcasting. I think a lot of young kids today, and I think a lot of people that get into the business, and a lot of people that reach out to me and ask questions. And by the way, I'm always happy to talk to people. If somebody DMs me, if somebody tweets at me, I respond to everything, and it's me responding. It's not, I don't have any, I have an amazing agent, Debbie Spander at Wasserman in Beverly Hills, but she doesn't tweet or anything for me. I kind of answer everything myself. And I think the biggest thing that I get is that people people want to have, and especially nowadays in the world of immediacy that we live in, people want to have that direct target right to where they want to go. And that's just not how it goes. Like, 25 years ago, the goal for me was to be, okay, I was going to go from the NAHL to the OHL to maybe stop in the OHL or the coast and then, get a gig in the NHL. Well, for me, it didn't work that way. It took me 22 years to get a job in the NHL as a broadcaster. And, you think about all the experience and all the other things that I had done, and that's just how it is. You got to put the work in. You have to be willing to make sacrifices. You have to be willing to take the valleys with the peaks and understand that it's not an A to B route. So for me, when I left Detroit, I went to Los Angeles, and I moved to Los Angeles in 2005, 2006. And then, as you said, in 2007, I ended up landing with the NBC Sports Group. And, for me, it was huge. I mean, that's a major network. It's a national network. It was my first time on national TV. But it was weird because it was sports that I had watched casually as a fan of the Olympic Games, but I never participated in a lot of them. Of course, we've all swam. I snowboard. Obviously, I played hockey, and we've all played, badminton in our backyard. But when you get into a situation where you got to start calling these sports, you're just like, okay. And for me, it taught me a lot about homework. It taught me a lot about preparation. It taught me a lot about having to dig in, because these are sports that have a niche audience that you have to prepare for. And, it was 12, 14 hours of homework to understand the intricacies of the rules of badminton or curling or diving or downhill skiing or whatever it was I was doing. And then having an intimate knowledge of the players and understanding their dynamic and the history of the sport and the language of it. So for me, being the utility guy for Universal Sports and NBC Sports was a good lesson in being prepared and having a ton of versatility. And likewise, doing play-by-play, hosting in a studio, being a reporter, being a producer, being an editor, being a camera guy at sometimes, being my own producer when I was out in the field while I was the talent. So there were so many things that happened in that 13 years that I was with 11, 13 years, whatever it was, that I was with NBC Sports Group that really rounded me as a broadcaster. And I think it's given me a greater appreciation to how everybody else's job goes. And then it makes me and my job easier, while at the same time I can make a guy's job easier. I know what the A1 and the A2 are doing. I know what's going on in the producer's mind. I know how busy the director is. I know when to jump in on Talkback and talk to him because we're in a commercial break, or I know we're not going to a replay. So the well-roundedness and the opportunities that being with the NBC Sports Group afforded me was exceptionally valuable. And I would say that it probably made me the broadcaster that I am today. And it was opportunities like that really kind of set the stage for where I'm at right now.
Yeah, especially because you have the well-roundedness, as you said, the versatility to be able to know to put yourself in your producer's shoes, your executive producer's shoes, whatever it may be, how hard the job may be is really amazing. And then again, to be able to work with the Olympic Channel, again, underneath the same umbrella. Yep. You're still doing voiceover, studio hosting, you're lead field producer at some point. Now talk about how being able to do these different jobs, did you ever say to yourself, well, you wanted to be that play-by-play guy, but because you're taking on these other roles, that it could potentially stunt your growth into landing said job?
Yeah, Joey, that's a spot-on question for sure. It was a definite worry, and it was one of the reasons why when I was at NBC Sports Group, I pushed so hard to be on air. And there were some lean times in terms of on air there because they just have such a massive stable of people. But I always pushed hard, and I always knew, not to sound cocky, I think it's more confident here, but I always knew I was more than capable and definitely well established enough to be a consistent and established on-air person. So, basically it was always a means to an end. It was always your foot is in the door. You're in a building where you can create things happening. It's all about momentum. So for me, it was better to sit into a building and be a producer, even though that's not what I really wanted to do. And stay current, stay busy, keep a paycheck coming in while I continue to push and and create other opportunities. And then when those broadcast opportunities did present themselves, you're 2 offices away from walking down to the studio and doing it. So, multiple times I was the guy where they were in a pinch and they needed somebody to do it, and I could just step in and be like, oh yeah, I did skiing last year. Like, no problem. I can step in, and you grab your, I'm a pretty organized guy. I have multiple notebooks per sport. And so like I had those on my bookshelf in my office at NBC. And if it was FIS downhill skiing that came up last minute, you grab that book and you've got your bios, and okay, you got to put a little bit in here and there, but it's just about being able to be ready and being Johnny on the spot. And I think that there were definitely moments where I got discouraged, for sure. And listen, in this business, you'll have a ton of naysayers. There were probably more people in this world since I started this that were like, you can't do that. You'll never do that. Yeah, you'll sure. Good luck. Yeah, we'll see if you make it into the NHL or not, and blah blah blah. But it doesn't matter to me. That never mattered. All you needed was a few of the right people to believe in you, and obviously, most importantly, believe in yourself. And I grew up in a military family. So, my father was in the military. My brother's currently serving, my grandpa, my uncle. So it was always improvise, adapt, overcome, and, always remember that you're never out of the fight. So no matter what the situation was, I was always confident in my own abilities. And it's a little sweet to sort of be in a spot right now where now the naysayers are the ones that are texting you for tickets and wanting to associate. And sometimes you accommodate them, and sometimes you casually forget to return that text.
Yeah, exactly. That is true. But, just rewind for a quick second.
Yeah.
You made a fantastic point. First off, from all of us at the Eastern Observer, to your father, to your brother, thank them for their service.
Thank you.
From all of us here, because that is something that we take very seriously here. So really, really good stuff. And not only that too, but it's really good because again, you also learn not to, especially on social media. And that was actually a perfect segue, Nick, because social media is and you know what, a counterpart of yours actually who, and I use this quote a lot, NFL on CBS's Melanie Collins wrote on Twitter once that Twitter is an absolute cesspool in verbatim. And that was actually my next question is that, you strive for greatness and you try and do your hardest work that you can to eventually get to the highest level. Now, you hear those naysayers, you hear whatever it may be, and then you get a text message on the phone saying, oh, well, can I have this kind of? No. Now, whenever you see stuff like that on Twitter, do you ever, let me rephrase that. How difficult was it when Twitter came out for you to basically not look at it and just tune everybody out?
Initially, no, not easy. I took things real personally. Mm-hmm. So initially, like you see people, and you got to remember, I was in my infancy too in broadcasting when Twitter came out. So I was still a little bit vulnerable and maybe not completely confident in myself. But now it's changed to the point where I believe in my abilities. I know I'm able to do the job, and I know that I have respect in the industry. So, Twitter is a cesspool, and people do get, you can hide behind a username and, have no accountability for what you say or how you say it. And people can be bitter and people can be jealous. Now I ignore all of that. I'm happy to respond to anybody that's positive. And I'm obviously very positive guy on social media. I don't believe in the negativity. I don't believe in the bashing. I don't believe in the the putting out of negative news. And, nowadays with everything that's going on in the world, it's all just negative and there's no optimism. And it drives me crazy to the point where I've cut down my usage on social media. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll post here and there, and obviously I keep up with things, but I just don't need that kind of negativity in my life. And I got a pretty long list of rules that I've established over the course of my life, things that I've learned from my parents or friends, or things that I've just made up on my own. And rule number 2 on that list is do not respond to any negativities. So it rolls off my back now. I think initially I probably put too much credence in it. And maybe it affected me a little bit. And I think I've really, truly learned that, it doesn't really matter to me. And my general point there is if, obviously on social media, anybody can reach out to you, and that's fine. And I'm happy to talk to anybody. But if you're not somebody that I would come to for advice, you're certainly not somebody that I care to listen to your criticism about, because truthfully, your opinion just doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that is the perfect answer to the question. Because again, those people, and you said it perfectly too, hiding behind the username. And the worst part is sometimes the avatars or whatever the case is, because they can't show their face. It's beyond brutal. But again, whatever you've done, especially with those rules, it's worked for you. And eventually you got your first job with the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, you're no stranger to moving out west, and especially into the desert. Your first time there, your first time moving there, obviously, but not your first time on, further west, if you will. So talk about your move there, and not only that too, with being the TV host for AT&T Sports Network for the inaugural season. Key phrase there, inaugural season, to be able to start with a brand new expansion team for the first time that anyone has done it in almost 20 years. Talk about being able to do that and starting fresh with a brand new team.
Yeah, I think for me, the most important part was, going back to your first question, I've always felt like I was a go west kind of a guy, at least initially. Now I've settled back in the Midwest in Chicago, and I absolutely love it. But from Los Angeles to Denver to Vegas, I mean, it was good. I left early. I left the house as a young, 18, 19-year-old. So I wasn't uncomfortable moving around. I'm certainly a close to the vest guy, so I have my group of friends, and I think the hardest move at the time in 2013 was leaving Los Angeles for Denver. NBC moved to Denver in 2013 because my two best friends were playing for the Los Angeles Kings, and it was hard to leave them. One of them I'd known since I was a kid, and the other one had become one of my close pals. So I think that was probably the harder move. Now I've gotten good at making friends in areas, but I keep my circle pretty tight. So it takes the sting out of moving around a little bit. But Vegas was an unbelievable opportunity. And I think I was like most people when that happened. You only have a peripheral knowledge of what Vegas was. And that was the very public media, go to the Strip, spend 48 hours, wild party, late nights, clubs and pools and casinos and, great food. And I think that was what my limited knowledge of Vegas was prior to that season happened. And I think honestly, if I'm being honest, I think I had a hard 48-hour rule, but in Vegas, I think whenever I went there, even when I lived in California, it was like, get in and get out, because the town will eat you up. But once I got there, I fell in love with that community. I mean, man, those fans and that community and that setting, and those people were, it was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in sports. I remember the home opener at T-Mobile Arena and the amazing speech that Derek Englund gave. And it was right after the October 1 shootings. And I mean, I fell in love and I fell hard. And it was, an amazing run by those guys. And it was cool to see a group of guys that really didn't know each other and a lot of unknowns come together in a way that they did and go on the run that they went on, and just watch a fan base just fall in love. It reminds you like of your high school sweetheart, and just falling in love for the first time, and just that hard, quick, you go from zero to I'm going to marry this girl in 2 weeks because you're a freshman and it's the first time you've ever fallen in love with somebody other than a family member. And I was in that same boat. I walked out of the arena on game 1 of T-Mobile, and I had all these emotions, and it was my first big NHL broadcast and everything. And I was just like, I had the hard eyes. I had the stars flying around. I was in. I was completely bought in. So, no, it was an amazing 2 years there because of the fans and because of that community. And last summer when things changed for me and Brad May and Ali Lozoff, it hurt. It hurt a lot, actually. It was probably one of the It's probably at the moment before I knew what was going on in the initial shock of the moment. It was certainly gut wrenched.
Yeah.
Gut wrenched for sure. And I know that Allie, who was our sideline reporter in Vegas, feels the same way. And my partner was Brad May, who's also one of my nearest, dearest, closest friends. Still to this day, talk to him every 2 days. The three of us were just kind of like, "What the hell just happened?" But an unbelievable fan base and community. I mean, I still love interacting with the fans from Vegas, and it's been funny because they've hooked up Chicago and Vegas have hooked up quite a bit in terms of just like big games. And obviously we moved Robin Leonard there, and he was a good friend of mine. So it's been fun seeing guys come back and forth. Ryan Carpenter came over from Vegas last summer, and he was one of my good buddies in Vegas. And then we just picked up Brandon Peary, who I've known for 20 something years as well. So it's been cool for the crossover. And it reminds me of how small and how tight knit the hockey world is.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And you know what? It's very funny that you bring up, how tight-knit everything is, because just from the interviews that we've conducted with so many writers, with so many broadcasters, is that, it's almost like a family. And especially for those that are working at the team level, not even so much the network level, but the team level, is that everyone is so close. And it's, you're not necessarily working for the radio station like how some of the guys in Canada are. They're working directly for the station as opposed to the team. So, it's really a cool thing to be able to have that connection with the players.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I feel the bond. Hockey's a big, giant family. It's a brotherhood. And, I think that once you get vouched for in the business and once you're squared away, there's a mutual respect that crosses teams. As I mentioned, I have two very close friends who are highly respected in the NHL, and it's not a secret. It's very public. Anze Kopitar, the LA Kings, and Justin Williams of the Carolina Hurricanes are basically brothers to me. So, I've been close with them for a very long time, and guys in the league, I think they realize that too. And, when I got to Chicago, it was nice having Ryan Carpenter in the room because he could vouch for me with the guys. And then you have to do your job. You have to show these guys that you're not out there to be a sensationalist. You're not out there to try to railroad anybody. You're not out there to look for some scoop that's going to hurt them or their careers or their family, because they are just people. They're exceptionally good at an incredibly hard sport, playing at the most elite level anywhere in the world, and they deserve a lot of respect. And, my job is not to try to sewer any of those guys. My job is to tell good stories and to help the viewer understand what's going on and why a certain thing happened a certain way, or why maybe it's going the way it's going, or why a player's playing the way he's playing, or why is he this good, or why is he struggling right now. And there are ways to do that without making a guy look bad. And it takes a little extra work, but when you do that, you realize there's a better way to tell stories and to be positive. And I think the folks in Chicago respected that this year with me. I think that they were very excited how positive I was and the angles that I took. And likewise, I think the boys in the room, felt the same way. And I view it as a family. I will protect the game of hockey and the people who play it and work in it with everything I have feverishly, because I owe the game of hockey everything. My friends, my family, my career, all the opportunities that it has afforded me. So I do whatever I can do to pay it back. And that means taking care of the people who are playing it.
Now, you brought up the fact on especially guys, highly respected players and really stars in the game, such as Mr. Game 7, Justin Williams, but also let's not forget also Anze Kopitar, and especially because he's like a, he's like Jesus out in Slovenia. It has got to be the coolest thing to be able to be friends with those guys. But now as a reporter and someone that is a rinkside reporter for the other team, now it's so difficult, and especially here out in New York where, it is, everything is so cutthroat. Everything is, we have to get this, we have to make sure that we report this story first. And if not, we're going to fight this guy or whatever, because we're going to say we're going to take credit for it, etc. But now, how difficult is it when you were saying about how, family and everything like that, and I think you know the question I'm going to ask.
I do.
How difficult is it to befriend these superstars and to still be able to do your job without crossing any boundary?
Friendship first. Friends or family. Family means everything. So for me, there's no difficulty because there's no crossing that line for me. I know things about certain guys that I could have been the one to break a story. I could have been the one to be the one that, hey, look at me, I got it. But I won't ever do it. I would much rather keep the integrity of my friendship with these players and the family that is hockey rather than try to do something sensational on a Twitter or on a TV broadcast that hurts them but helps me. Like, I'll never step on another broadcaster. I'll never take a gig over somebody that is a friend of mine. I'll never cross a line and step over somebody to take a job, even if it's a better opportunity for me. And I certainly won't sewer a guy to promote myself. And if people want to say, oh, well, you're not doing your job as a reporter, everybody gets it anyway. Everybody has it within moments, and everybody has it on Twitter. I mean, anytime a piece of news breaks, I get it from 15 different sources on my Twitter before, I've even had time to type it. So for me, that's just not me. I'm not a break it news kind of a guy. The NHL, the Blackhawks, whomever, they don't need me to be that guy. I also think that it is the bane of the news and sports broadcast media that, well, you heard it here first. Well, okay, great. If it's not true, or if it's not completely accurate, it's total garbage. So, I'm always a guy that's going to get the full story and figure out what is actually going on, and then I'll tell it. And if it's something that needs to be told, well, okay, great. Well, then you do your job and you be a reporter and you tell the story. But I would never run with something without talking to the source or the person directly first, and making sure that it's accurate and that I understand the full scope of it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I do have a little bit of respect throughout the league amongst the guys, because they know that I've known things that I haven't spoken a word of, and I never will. And there's a lot of credence and a lot of value that goes into being a good person. And again, another one of my mottos is friends are family. Family means everything. Family comes first. So I would never do anything to cross a line. And I don't think, Joey, I don't think there's even been a moment in which I've considered doing it. I've always gone with the line of, I'm not gonna be that guy and I'm not gonna hurt somebody else for my own benefit.
It's really admirable that you say that, because anybody that I could think of, especially, again, and I hate to keep bringing up where we are here in New York, it is, again, as we said, the industry, and way better than I do, and I'm just slowly breaking into it, is that is the mindset that I wish that a lot more, not only broadcasters, journalists would have, because it would be so much nicer, pleasant, or whatever. And you think back to so many devastating stories, and the biggest one that I think of, God, may he rest in peace, but I think of like Kobe Bryant, where it is, well, I'm the first one to report this. I'm the first one to report this. And half the stuff was false. So, really to just as a broadcaster and as a journalist, like how yourself, and you look to friends and family first and broadcaster second. Did you ever think, when you befriended guys like the aforementioned Kopitar and Williams, that this could potentially, again, stunt the growth of you getting to where you want to get to, or have you made it there?
No, that never even factored. Truthfully, it never once factored, because again, for me, there's a big separation in job and friends, family. And again, I go back to it because it's how I was raised. It's like, I'm Italian, very Italian. I'm first generation American. My dad was born in Rome, and came over here on the Andrea Doria in '54, and lived on Ellis Island for 2 weeks before they were admitted into New York City. He came across in steerage with with his family from Rome, and family, friends. So it was always separate for me, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to maintain those relationships with those guys, because I can talk to a Cope, or I can talk to a Willie, or a Carpy, or even a Robin Leonard, and they're open and they're honest with you, because they know that I'm not gonna, and it never was, the friendship for me was always more important than the job. Jobs come and go. The only thing that you really have in this world at the end of the day is your word and who you are as a person, and that's what you're going to be judged on, and the friends that are going to be there for you when you really need them to. So, it never, there was not even a single iota of a moment that I thought, oh, well, if I'm buddies with this guy, it's not going to help me. Or then there wasn't even a moment when I thought, oh, if I'm buddies with this guy, it's going to help me. I've never once leaned on one of those guys for an opportunity or a leg up or anything like that. Certainly there are moments where I could have done that. But that would have been going against the friendship side of things. And I'm just, that's just not me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, really selfless attitude and truly admirable from one aspiring broadcaster to another. It really is definitely a different perspective that for those young aspiring broadcasters that are watching this can really take some notes. And again, including myself, as I'm writing a few things down myself, because this is really great. And again, not many broadcasters or anything can say, well, I'm friends with this guy or this guy, but we found one. We found Nick Gismondi, who is friends with a whole bunch. But let's move forward a little bit into now your time with the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, we spoke in the open how you've known Eddie Olczyk for many, many years. And I want to start off with his diagnosis of cancer, and I want to know how difficult it was for you, especially because you're so close to him, and just to see him going through the pain, and not only that, but also what we see. And I'm sure you saw things way differently because you're actually close to him. You know who he is as a person. And for me, just what I see on television and the interviews, plural, that he had with KT, with Catherine Tappan, and a couple of those specials too, is really another admirable thing. So give us a little bit of background of what you thought from a personal level with Edzo.
When I heard it publicly before I heard it from Edzo, and wow. I just remember being, I was just crushed. This is a guy who, who's a giant in my world, whose family I've known for a long time. And it was, crushed. But at the same time, I knew how tough Eddie is, and I know how awesome his support system is, and I know how much family means to him. So never a doubt in my mind that he wouldn't be just an absolute bear in the ring fighting this thing until he figured it out. So I was upset, and we had multiple text conversations just letting him know whatever he needed. And it's funny, right after it had happened, his son had come out to, his youngest son, Nick, had come out to play college hockey at CC down in Colorado Springs, and I was living in Denver. And, Nicky was also one of the first ones that I reached out to. Nick's like a little brother to me. So I reached out to him right away, and I said, hey, I know you're going to be struggling with this. Your dad's going through this back in Chicago. You're here. I said, you tell me what you need. I said, I'm 45 minutes away. I'll drive down. We'll do dinner once a week. If you need to just vent, if you need to get out of the college and come and stay at my place for a little bit. So, for me, it was just rally around and offer support where I could handle it. I didn't want to overpress. I didn't want to overbug. I didn't want to ask a million questions. Edzo, it was, for me, it was just at the very beginning. It was just, hey, if you need something, let me know. I'll do whatever I can do to help you. But Eddie's well connected, and he's got a lot of people that love him very much. So I wasn't surprised at all that he had a probably overwhelming outpouring of support, and it got him through it. He battled unreal, and he's great. He looks good. He's healthy. He's crushing it. So, and it's not something that we even really talk about anymore because, you don't need to bring it up. But, I feel like he's helped so many people too that have been going through it. He's always there for words of encouragement. He's always there for advice. He's always there to point people in the right direction. And I think one of the coolest things he does during a broadcast, there's multiple times during a broadcast on NBC Sports Chicago where he and Pat Foley will shout out people that might be struggling with something like that, or they're in the hospital, or they've just been diagnosed. And, he's so genuine in what he does, and he means everything he says. So, guy's a rock star. I was obviously gutted by it. Probably, for a minute, but then I realized just that, it's Edzo. He was going to figure it out, and I was confident in that, and said a lot of prayers, and, helped out, or just at least offered the help where I could give it. He didn't take me up on it, which is not a surprise for him. So I was just there morally and emotionally, but he's a great human being, and I'm really glad he's still around.
So again, really, really amazing stuff to be able to be working with, again, someone that you've known for a very long time. But now the biggest question here is that to be able to work with another legend in Pat Foley. Talk about that, and and the voice. Everyone knows it, especially out here on the east, on the northeast, the northeast area over here, and the East Coast and the tri-state area. We all know Pat Foley. And, just because also this is something that we didn't discuss earlier, but you had some previous broadcasting history with Edzo at City in the USHL.
That's where we met. We had his son, his oldest son, Eddie, was playing hockey out there for the Musketeers, and a dear close friend of mine from back in Michigan, Dustin Gaisley, was playing for the Sioux City Musketeers. And so I would go out once a month and watch Dustin play, and Eddie and I got to know each other pretty quickly when we were out there roughly at the same time. And the radio guy for Sioux City, whenever Edzo and I were in town, was just like, "Why don't you two just jump on and do the broadcast?" And so Eddie and I started doing games together when we were there, and we started coordinating our trips once a month. So Edzo and I were on radio together in the USHL in Sioux City, Iowa, back in like 2005, 2006, 2007, something like that. I think Edzo was working for. He must have been working for Versus. I think it was still Versus at the time. Yeah. Or Outdoor Network, or I'm not sure exactly. Whatever it was. Yeah. It was. Sure, somebody will correct me, but I think it was still Versus. But So we got to do that together. We had a lot of fun together, and I mean that's why this whole thing coming full circle was a lot of fun. I wish there were tapes. I'm sure there are somewhere, but I wish there were tapes of he and I doing those Sioux City games together. That'd be a fun throwback. But Pat Foley. I mean, geez, he's a giant. He's a giant. He's a Foster Hewitt guy. He's one of the most iconic voices in all of hockey. And I mean, listen, when I got the job in Chicago this past summer, it was pinch me moment. I'm like, I'm going to be on a broadcast with Pat Foley and Eddie Olczyk. And then you meet Pat Foley, and he's this just huge personality, just lovable. Like, "Hey, it's on Pat. It's great to meet you." And he's calling me Gizmo, and I'm just like, "Is this really happening?" Like, really? Like, I don't get nervous anymore. But I remember the first game we did at the United Center was October. I don't know. It was early October, so it was almost a year ago to the date. And I was going to be on the broadcast with him, and Foles and Edzo are chatting me up, introducing me on the broadcast, and they're getting ready to throw to me, and my heart was going to come out of my chest. I'm like, I got my ears in, my earpieces in, and I'm listening to the broadcast, which is the other treat, right? Like, I get those guys in my ear whole game, like piped in directly and interacting with them. But Foley's getting ready to throw it down to me, and I mean, Edzo's, I can hear the smile, and I can, I just had a really fun time with those guys in the lead up, and my heart's pounding out of my chest, and and Foles throws it down to me, and I was like, just get it out, Gizmo, like just 30 seconds, don't screw up on your rip and your debut here, and and it finished, and and I had the biggest grin on my face the whole time. And it's funny, people have pointed that out to me. They're like, "Your first hit, you had the biggest smile," and I'm like, "Yeah, I was crapping my pants a little bit." I mean, 25 years in the business, a couple Emmy nominations, and I was nervous. I was like a little kid. I'm like, I'm on a broadcast with Pat Foley and Eddie Olczyk. So it's a huge honor. It's a huge honor. I don't take it lightly. And trust me, it makes the job a little bit harder too, because Pat is so entertaining, and he's so good at describing the game, and he's so engaging. and you're entertained. And then there's Eddie, who's so knowledgeable, and he breaks it down so perfectly, and he explains it so well, and you know exactly what's going on in the play. You know exactly what players are thinking. You know, so the challenge for me is to find a way to complement what those guys are doing. I'm not Eddie in terms of an analysis of the game, and you know, Foles does such a great job of breaking it down. I'm not going to try to repeat what he's doing, and I'm not going to try to overanalyze it and step on Edzo's stuff. So for me, the challenge is always about just finding things that I can add in that complement whatever they have said, or tee up Eddie or tee up Pat for, you know, something that they can go do and elaborate on. And, you know, the other big thing is just get out of the way. Like I don't need to over talk in those situations. And, you know, Pat is such a good play-by-play man that if I'm watching the game and it's in my peripheral and I see that puck's getting ready to drop, I got to wrap it up quick, because I do not want to take away from his cadence or his ability to describe what's going on. So you'll never find me talking over action. I'm very sure that the folks that tune into NBC Chicago are tuning in to listen to Pat and Eddie, and I'm a little bonus on the side, but they don't need me interrupting or taking away from those two guys going. Well,
regardless of whatever it is, I mean, it's got to be, again, really, really cool. And you brought up earlier, you didn't say it in as many words, but the word starstruck came to mind.
100% starstruck. Yeah, 100% starstruck.
And you're seeing Edzo, who you've known for so many years, but then again you're seeing Pat Foley. But now switching back to Edzo for a second, was there any chemistry that you brought over from Sioux City that kind of translated to NBC Sports Chicago, or no, not really?
I got to show you this picture real quick. I'll send it to you. But that was the first time I had met Pat. That was in the broadcast right before the game. So I'm beaming. Edzo's beaming. Foles is just a rock star. So that was a lot of fun for me. But there was a little chemistry. I mean, listen, Eddie is the most affable, most easy to get along with guy on the planet. So yeah, for sure there's some fun, and there were some great light moments this season on the broadcast when we went back and forth with one another, and there was some playfulness. So for sure there was some chemistry. Hard to not have chemistry with somebody you've known for 13 years. But there was chemistry right away with Pat too. He's such a good guy. He's such a good guy. I can't say enough about Pat Foley either, but just for those guys to welcome me into their broadcast. That's their broadcast. It is. That's Pat's, and that's Eddie's broadcast. So for them to bring me in and have me as a part of things, meant a lot to me. And they were just so great about it all year long. And by the way, I need to say something else about that organization. The Blackhawks organization is as white glove and as first class as I've ever experienced in 25 years of doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, the Wirtz family has that thing so completely dialed and professional, and it's a family. And as a guy who I've talked about a ton about family, it's so important to me. I remember showing up my very first day at Gate 13, and Will Chuckerman, one of the communications guys, came out, big hug, showed me around, met everybody. But, that whole organization, top down, is just A+. And, I work very closely with the communications department, and, the Adam Rogowins and the John Steinmillers and the Mike Corrans and the Will Chuckermans and the Nick Sobols and the Lindsays of the world. They do just such a great job to make my life easy and helpful. And I stepped into the United Center on day one, and I felt like I'd been there for 10 years. I mean, that organization is as first class as it gets.
That's really, really amazing stuff. And to be able to feel like you're home, really, really close to home, is probably the coolest thing too.
Yeah.
Being in the Midwest is really, or being back home in the Midwest has got to be really, really good. Now, to rewind just one more time, the first time that you moved out to Los Angeles and the first time that you moved away from home, I got the understanding from you that, that you wanted to be really out by 18, 19, or, to really want to be able to move, if you will, and I don't know if that was as many words, but, really, it didn't really affect you that much. Now, when is that right? Do you really consider that? Did that really affect you when you moved out there first and making that big leap? especially, again, all the way out west. You're not going from Detroit to Chicago. You're going across the country.
I think that was by design. I think it was by design. I think in order to do it, I really had to make a leap, and I really had to go far away so that I didn't have that safety net. I've always been a very independent person, and I also knew that it was a big market. So it was a little bit of that New York mentality: make it there, you can make it anywhere, because LA will eat you alive, and it started to eat me alive a little bit. I mean, I had tense moments. But again, I like that. I like to feel a little bit of pressure. I like to have a problem to solve. And I think it just became an idea, and it became a thing. And it was just go here and try this and go west. And I was always enamored with California. I'm a beach guy. I loved it. And so for me, it was a move that served a lot of different purposes, but paid off. I mean, in hindsight, it was probably one of the smartest decisions I made. But yeah, no, I was never worried about it. I mean, I figured it out pretty quick. You got to do your laundry, and you got to, you don't have mom cooking for you. And there were some lean times in the old bank account, but you figure out a way to make it work.
Exactly. So now we go back, actually, similar to the documentary, The Last Dance. We go back a little bit. Now we're going to go forward again. So going back to, or I guess now to the present, with the Chicago Blackhawks, you have a shortened season because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, just the night before the sports world completely stopped, you guys played the Sharks. You won 6-2, March 11th, 2020. The day that most likely will be etched in all of our minds as sports journalists, broadcasters, etc., for the rest of our lives. And you know exactly where you're going or where you were that night and the day after. So now I'm going to ask you this, Nick, is, the moment you heard that everything was shutting down, and you're a big family guy, you're a big friendship person, first off, what was your thought the moment that you heard that this was happening?
I was in a little bit of disbelief over it all. I really wasn't sure what I thought initially, and I'm still not sure what I think now about all of it, truthfully. But I'll avoid that question at the moment. But I don't know. Like I guess in these situations, I trust the people who are making the decisions. So Gary Bettman and the NHLPA decided that this was the best course of action. And I was, obviously you just go along with it. I don't think in the moment I thought it was going to go on as long as it's gone on. So I think I was a little surprised when that kind of went down. I mean, I wasn't really worried about family or friends in that moment. And I wasn't necessarily worried about myself either. I think it was more about just figuring out, okay, well, if this is what we're doing, what are we doing next? Or how do we proceed from here? I like a plan. I'm okay operating without a plan, but I prefer to have a plan. I think the uncomfortableness of that moment was just not having a plan. I've been a part of some pretty crazy sports moments before. I was right there when the bomb went off in Boston at the marathon. So that certainly sticks in my mind. But there are just moments of chaos, and I think I'm very proud of the NHL for being as productive and at the forefront of this as they have. I mean, I thought that they figured it out incredibly well. I thought the bubble went extremely well. And I have a lot of confidence in Gary Bettman and the NHLPA that they're going to figure out the best way to do this next season with a lot of normalcy as well, I think.
And it's beyond as you said, with chaos or definitely something that is not only historical, but it's going to stick out for the rest of our lives. Now, for you as a broadcaster and for you being ringside, how difficult was it, especially that night, March 11th, where, if I'm not mistaken, they put the protocols in place already where that you guys had to be 6 feet apart from the players and you guys were not allowed in the locker room? Or was that the day after?
Day after. We played San Jose on the 12th, I believe. believe we played San Jose on the 12th. That was a national broadcast, so we weren't doing the game. So I was sitting in the press box, and that's when the NBA sort of shut down. And I think we saw it start to come from there. And then we had a couple of days at practice before they actually closed down. Oh, no. There was no. Yeah. We played San Jose. So that press conference post game was socially distant. We weren't allowed in the locker room. They brought players out to the mic. Same with that morning skate. Nobody went into the room. We had select players come to the media room. So that was a little bit strange. And then they shut it down from there. I mean, it hurts. Hopefully it's not the way it is going forward, because it makes it very difficult to do your job. So much is done on the sideline reporter role of that interpersonal communication, that one-on-one time that you get with players in the setting of the locker room. And it's not a great giant pool media situation. So they're going to definitely have to figure that out. And if they don't, we'll have to improvise and adapt and overcome the situation in the positions that I'm in. But I truthfully do feel like we're a smart, innovative human race right now, and I think that we're able to come up with solutions to problems, and I think that this is just another problem that we will find a viable solution, and hopefully we can move past this thing sooner than later, because I'd very much like to forget the last 7 months.
Perfectly said. Especially now, you know what, because it's wild to think also just 2 days later, as I was doing my homework for this, for our chat here, just 2 days later, you guys the Blackhawks were slated to host Ottawa, and there was an unidentified player that had tested positive just a few days later from that. So, when you look and you see that hindsight is 2020, and you think to yourself, well, I could have been near that guy, or I could have been near whatever. How is there a sense of relief? Is there a sense of gratefulness? That you weren't near him. What does that make you feel like when you heard that news too, especially when you guys were supposed to play them 2 days later?
I mean, we take chances every single day, man. We get on planes, we get in cars, we go out in rain, we go out in lightning, you just don't know. So for me, it wasn't like oh my God, that was so close. I mean, in 2013, I was feet away from a improvised explosive device at the finish line of the Boston Marathon and got essentially almost blown up. So I think my mentality is no day but today. You have to live your life, and you have to do it with an assumable risk. So I don't think when I heard that news, there wasn't a moment of it was like anything else. I mean, if it would have, I don't think we knew much about what was going on at that point. So it certainly wasn't. It wasn't like, oh my God, I just dodged a major bullet. I didn't have that sense at any point. Now, to put a little bit more positivity in our chat here, what does a normal, let's say, and normal is a very tough word, especially in the last 7 months, but pre-COVID, if you will, what does a normal game day look like for you, Nick? Yeah, so morning skate in the morning. So that's always at the United Center. So it's normally the guys skated around 10:30, 11 o'clock, depending on puck drop that night. So I'll get to the rink at around 9:30. I like chatting with some of the other reporters. Our insider is Charlie Romeliotis. So he and I we get along really well. He's become a close friend of mine too. So I like to chat with him about the game coming up and just any notes. Sometimes we'll do Facebook Lives together for NBC Chicago. And then, from there, I like to watch skate. They're not doing too much, but you can get some line rushes from it. I can get a good sense of how guys are feeling, how guys are moving. And then the biggest part of my day there then is downstairs afterwards. So in the locker room, getting some stories and things like that I want to incorporate within the broadcast that night. So talking to the guys in the room and just getting little things here or there, or just general vibe of the room. listening to some of the other media scrums, just to, again, get a general sense. Like, I played hockey for a long enough time. I've been in enough rooms where I can get a general vibe of where the team's at and the pulse just by sort of watching body language and answers and how light are they? Are they joking around? Are they having fun with one another? Are they tight? Are they going through the motions? And then after that, let's listen to the coach press conference. Same thing, get some stuff from him. Every now and then I'll have a private chat with Jeremy Colleton. And I can just pick up a little bit of information, from there, and just, stuff that helps shape what I'm going to see that night's game. And then I'll watch the visiting team skate and participate in a couple of their media scrums and say hello to anybody on those other teams that I've known or coached or played with at some point. And then after that, I go back home to the house, get a quick bite to eat, do a lot of homework. I'll do about 2 or 3 hours of pregame prep there at the house. Just make sure I have my story straight and know sort of what I want to say, and 2 or 4 to 10 bullet points that I want to give my producer. And then if, say, puck drops at 5 o'clock, I'll get to the rink at around 4:45. Go drop my stuff down in the press room, go into the truck, say hello to the guys, thank everybody, have a quick chat with the producer and the director and the technical director and the graphics guys, and tell them what stories I want to try to incorporate in the show. Then I'll go have a pregame meal in the press room, do some last minute checks, do a pregame hit with Pat Boyle and Jamal Mayers and Bursch and Steve Conroy. After that, I normally pop up to the booth, say a quick hi to Edzo and Foles. And then I'm in position about 15 minutes before game time, just to do anything that I might need to do in the broadcast. I normally don't come on until the second or third commercial break, so I'm normally in the bowl in my position for the national anthem, and then I'm just on standby, ready to go. And then I'll do a hit in the first period, and then I'll do a hit, the intermission interview in the first, and then I'll do a hit at the start of the second period, do a hit in the third, and then I'll have a post-game hit if they win on the bench. And then if they don't win, I'll have a post-game hit in the post-game show outside the locker room. So
just to confirm with what you had said there, you had said that you would get to the arena by 4:45 for a 5 o'clock game. So I'm assuming
4:45 for a 7 o'clock game.
Okay, yeah. Because I was gonna say, I was like, wait, hold on.
No, I'm there a good 2 hours before puck drop.
Okay, yeah. So 2.5 hours, and that is pretty good. And you're able to go back to your house, which is fantastic, because you see some people are not able to.
It's a long day at the rink if you stay there. Some guys do. Our producers in our truck gets there at 11 o'clock, and they're there all day. I mean, those guys work harder than anybody. Pulling cable, laying cable, everything like that. The communication staff gets there, and they're there the full day. So yeah, for sure, it's nice to be able to bounce out. I did the same thing in Vegas, though. I would go to morning skate at City National Arena, go home, and then go to T-Mobile Arena. So important for me to be able to take that break. I also don't want to wear a suit all day. So, you can go to the morning skate a little bit more casual and then go home, put your suit on, come in. And, I'm a little clumsy at times too. So if I were to try to eat pregame meal in a suit, I'd for sure need a backup shirt and a backup tie.
Oh my God.
They always serve the worst things. Like, the food is so delicious at all these pregame places, but it's always like pasta with meatballs or ribs. And I'm like, I can't eat. That's gonna be all over me in like 15 seconds. I'm gonna do my first hit looking like I just was like a 2-year-old eating dinner. It's like, yeah.
Oh my God.
How about like a white sauce pasta or like chicken breast?
Well, we'll have to let center know what to provide.
Avoid the red sauces, please.
Exactly. So we'll get into the final 5 minutes of our conversation here. Now, a little bit of general conversation, because for aspiring young broadcasters out there, especially now with what's going on in the world, we were talking about earlier how negativity takes a toll on certain people, Nick, and how you have the ability to block people out nowadays, but at times when, as you said, when you were younger, it was a difficult transition to be able to kind of tune out the cesspool. But now, because people are being told, or aspiring broadcasters, athletes, and you're both of those, it's very difficult to be told that you can't do certain things when you've been able to for your entire life. How difficult is it, or what would be your advice to those aspiring young athletes, broadcasters, who do not have who do not have access to said facilities, or to those athletes who do not have the facilities such as gym or a big enough home or apartment, etc., to be able to work out or to be able to do live games.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome. Like, there is always a way. Excuses mean nothing. You know, if you don't have a gym, make a gym. Through COVID, health is a big factor for me. I don't have a gym in my house. I don't have free weights. I don't have a bench. I don't have a squat bar. So you improvise. You fill up 5-gallon jugs, or you can, bench press your Xbox, or you can bench press a chair, or you can do dips on your couch, or you can get exercise bands and off of an Amazon or things like that. There are ways, and if you're motivated enough, you can figure it out. Same with if you want to be an aspiring broadcaster. If you want to hone your skills and you don't have access to a radio station, I mean, nowadays, look at us. We've got HD cameras in our hands. Create something. I used to, when I first learned how to do play-by-play, this was before the internet. At my house in Michigan, I would take the morning paper, and whoever the Red Wings were playing that night, I would hold the sports section and I'd put the television on mute. I'd sit in front of the TV and I'd call the game off of the television, and the newspaper in front of me with the two rosters of the teams that were playing that night, the Red Wings and whoever else. So if you really want something, you'll find a way to do it. And in this business, you're going to hear the word no a ton, and that's fine. But the best advice I could give you is turn the no into a maybe. And then as soon as you turn that no into a maybe, you keep working and turn the maybe into a yes. And, in terms of criticism, just don't, if it's not somebody that you would seek advice from, then don't take criticism from. I said that earlier, but if you're not somebody who I would go to for advice or help, well, then you're certainly not somebody that I care to listen to about criticism, because you probably don't know me, and you probably don't know the intricacies, and you're probably not somebody that I care to listen to negativity from. So get yourself a circle and understand who you appreciate and understand who you like, and then reach out to them and ask them for help. And if you feel like the advice that they're giving you and the help that they're affording you is something that helps you, and then at some moment they have criticism for you, take it, listen to it. There are very few people in the broadcasting business who I would take criticism from at this point, but there are certainly people who I have an exceedingly high level of respect for that could call and be like, "Hey, Giz, the way you did this the other night, I would have done it this way." And I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I'll do that." Take something from everybody and turn yourself into what you want to be. Don't try to be somebody else. Like, don't try to be me. Don't try to be Pat Foley. Don't try to be Eddie Olczyk. Take something from all 3 of those people, and 10 of those people, 20 of those people, from Al Michaels, from Johnny Forsland, from all the great broadcasters that are out there, Doc Emmerich, and take things from each of them that you like and make it your own. But just don't give up. I mean, this is a tough business. But the people that make it are the ones that don't come up with excuses. Don't ho-hum over this COVID thing. Oh, I don't have access to get creative, start a podcast, do a video, do a vlog, do something along those lines. And same for young athletes. Find a way to better yourself every single day. Get up and do 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, go for a 1-mile run. None of these things require weights. Bench press your kitchen chair, squat press the kitchen table, laying on your back with a pad underneath it. There's a million different ways that you can get creative if you really want to. And truthfully, the difference between success in anything you do in life, whether it's an athlete or whether it's a broadcaster, is the level that you're willing to put in and the level you're willing to sacrifice in order to get to where you want to be. You make excuses, probably won't play in the NHL, probably won't broadcast in the NHL. If you dig in and find a way to get it done, I'll see you on the ice, or I'll see you next to me in a broadcast.
Well said. That really is amazing for all of those aspiring broadcasters and aspiring athletes out there that are they say they're going through a tough time, but Nick says that you can do it if you really want to. Now,
we all are. By the way, Joey, we're all going through a tough time right now. I mean, I talked to several other guys that are broadcasters in the NHL right now, and nobody quite knows what's going on. I mean, keep in mind that most of us really haven't worked since March. Everybody's sort of been off. I mean, with the exception of some of the teams that were in the bubble. So understand as well that you're not alone right now. And we're all sort of trying to figure out what this is and when and how we're coming back and what that will look like. So, even for a guy like myself, there's uncertainty right now. There's uncertainty for veteran guys in the NHL. Take a look at a guy like John Forsland. Forsland is a legendary future Foster Hewitt Hall of Fame broadcaster. He doesn't have a gig for next year yet. And you just have to understand that everybody's going through this right now. We're all in this together. We will come out of this thing. This is not something that's going to go on forever. And just understand that no matter how tough it is, like you got to power through, but you have to stay positive. You have to believe. And, I think that if you can do that and you can find those upbeat moments and you can find reasons to smile and you can find reasons to laugh a little bit, sometimes at yourself, then that's what you've got to do right now, because you're not alone. And if you're an aspiring broadcaster, you're in the same boat as a lot of us right now, where you just don't know, but you take it one day at a time. And if you do that, you'll come out on the other side. Now,
for you, especially because, we've all been home for a while, and, obviously, again, I think a while is definitely an understatement, but where you are now, have there been any, personal things like house projects, quality family time, movies, TV shows that you've caught up on that you normally wouldn't be able to do during a normal season?
I blasted through so much Netflix. I highly recommend my good friend Colin Ford. He's an actor. He's in a Netflix series called Daybreak.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Watch Daybreak. Watch my boy Colin. And then I was just recently a massive fan of Cobra Kai.
Okay.
So seasons 1 and 2 of Cobra Kai were legit. Watch that for sure. And then I think the biggest one that I caught up on that I had not seen before, and I'm embarrassed that I hadn't, was Friday Night Lights.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I blasted through Friday Night Lights, and that was unbelievable. Home projects, not really. I've been working out a lot and just trying to stay healthy and trying to stay fit. At the very beginning of it, I got back to Denver and it was cold, and I made those excuses. I'm like, I'm just going to catch up on, Netflix and blah, blah, blah. So I put a couple pounds on real quick, and then I realized real fast that this was going to get out of hand. So I started improvising workouts at the house and doing stuff like that. And then once it got warm, I've been golfing pretty much every day. So
the amazing game of golf.
Oh yes,
fantastic.
Yeah, so that's been that. I mean, nothing else major. I'm single with no family, no kids. So I didn't have to worry about like homeschooling anybody or anything like that. But a lot of FaceTimes with some friends and family back in Michigan. And once it got warm, a lot of socially distanced golf and everything like that. And now I'm just itching to get going again. Now I want to work. I'm bored. I'm bored. I need to work, Joey.
Yeah, it's, you know what, and exactly what you said. It's happening to all of us. But one of these days we will get there, and and it's going to be probably the greatest day of our lives once we get back.
The sun will continue to come out every tomorrow. I'm positive of that, at least at the moment. But it's 2020, so I really hope I didn't just jinx us. Please come out tomorrow, son. Please. One
final question.
Yeah.
How excited are you for the draft and for free agency, especially because the Hawks have about, I think, $10 million in cap space?
We just do now. We didn't. I'm sad to see Ole Mata go. That is an absolute rock star human being. I think he's an incredible defenseman. He's going to do real good on the left side in Los Angeles there. But wow, what a human being. Ole Mata's cancer survivor as well. Yep. And he's somebody that I had gotten pretty close to this season. Just an absolute quality guy, always happy to talk. So sad to see Mats go. Excited that there's some cap space. Obviously, I think priority one for the Blackhawks is figuring out what we're doing in goaltending. Are we going to re-sign Corey Crawford? And if we are, let's do that. And then let's lock up our other free agents. We got to figure out something here with Dylan Strome and kind of solidify that. But super excited for the draft. Super excited for what is going to be a little bit of a clearer picture on what the future, immediate future and long-term future of the Chicago Blackhawks is going to look like. We pick tomorrow at 17th, so we'll get a real good player early on in the draft tomorrow. And then just excited for these guys, man. I mean, it is just, I can't imagine what a rush it is. I remember when Justin Williams got drafted and the conversation that we had after that, and just the excitement and the energy and the emotions. And Kirby Doc and I had talked about it a bunch this season, and what went through his mind. And I talked to his parents about what went through their minds. So I'm really excited for these guys tomorrow to figure out what their future is going to be, and that gives them something to look forward to. And there's something about having that logo. Even as a broadcaster. There's so much pride in that. So a bunch of guys get logos tomorrow, and they get their shield, and they get to bleed whatever that color is for as long as they're there. And I'm excited. I'm excited for those guys. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of sleepless nights across North America, Europe, and Canada tonight as they get ready for what's going to be a very exciting few days.
Yeah, that's really cool, and especially because you're such a family man and everything along those lines. With friends, you described it perfectly. The sleepless nights, and you described the family well too. The friends and the family is really probably the best thing out there. And Nick Gismondi, ladies and gentlemen, really a fun hour and 15 minutes that we got to chat here. And I got to tell you, man, I really hope over here on Long Island, we have center ice, so we'll definitely, hopefully, when hockey comes back and normalcy comes back, we'll see you on NBC Sports Chicago, and we hope that you keep striving for greatness and just keep moving forward, man, with Pat and Edzo.
I appreciate it, Joey. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
No doubt about it. Yeah. So
it's been great.
For sure. Absolutely, Nick. One last thing for those that are just watching here, Essential Wrestling Podcast returns tomorrow right here on the Eastern Observer, presented to you by the Pro Wrestling Pick'em website. So those guys will be on tomorrow night starting at 6 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, for all of us here at the Blackjack Media Group, Nick Gismondi, I'm Joey Jarzynka. We'll see you next time.